Punishment for Sin. Self-inflicted fate. BD number 6242. April 21, 1955. No one can avoid being punished for his sins, since with his sins the human being himself creates a state which is painful to him. I do not punish him for his sins, yet according to the law of eternal order every action, every wrong thought and deed has an effect, and precisely this effect is caused by people themselves and experienced by them as torment, as punishment, which, however, only ever corresponds to the law of eternal order. And this is why the adversity and torment is inconceivable which people are approaching who lead a sinful life, who blaspheme and mock me, who think they can pull everything that is divine and pure into the mud without having to pay for it. They commit one sin after another and will be horrified how the consequences of their violations will affect them. Yet they cannot avoid their judgment. For I cannot give them anything they didn't want themselves, I can only give them the reward which corresponds to their life and their deeds, and therefore they will have to endure much pain. And they can consider themselves fortunate if they are still pulled up on earth to make amends for their guilt of sins, if they still have to suffer on earth before they are called away from earth. For they can still come to their senses on earth, they can still recognize their sins on earth and turn around on the path they had traveled so far. In the kingdom of the beyond, however, the realization of their guilt can often only be expected after an infinitely long time, for a sinful person enters the kingdom of the beyond with a completely darkened mind, and it takes a long time before he can clarify his thoughts and regret his way of life on earth. Because he is without light and strength, yet he feels every pain which he nevertheless had prepared himself. Anyone who presents me as a punishing God does not know my law of eternal order, or he would never be able to speak in this way. For my love tries to protect all people from the fate they are preparing for themselves and which can never be called blissful. And I truly will do everything in order to make it easy for people. However, if they don't want this, if they won't let themselves be guided by me and act wrongly of their own accord, then they will also have to accept the consequences, but they will never be able to say that I have prepared the fate for them which they are creating for themselves. For I know about the dreadful agonies and try everything in order to avert these torments from the beings. But I will not take your free will away. And anyone who sins must also accept the results of sin, because this corresponds to my law of eternal order. People can indeed act heartlessly and make their fellow human beings suffer, but I am love itself and I only ever want to provide you with happiness. But where human will does not allow for this, there cannot be happiness. For antidivine desire also creates an antidivine fate, a fate of excruciating torment and darkness, a fate of most bitter captivity. A state of bondage and weakness, which is always the consequence, the result of sin, and therefore the punishments were precipitated by the being itself, which lived on earth in opposition to my eternal order. Amen.